To continue on the tradition of watching all the Disney remakes before I watch the originals, I have now seen the 2019 version, live action version of Aladdin. I've never seen the original animated Aladdin movie, which whenever I tell anybody, they freak out, tell me I have to watch it. But I held off in order to watch this one first because I am a madman and I am officially the only person on the planet who has seen the movies backwards. Now, what I really liked about this movie is really the overall experience watching the movie from beginning to finish. I thought this was a very entertaining and fun ride. I can see why this movie became a Disney classic, just because the story is so well done. I really like the story of, the title character Aladdin going from being a thief on the streets to being something more and to being what he was at the end of the film. And I thought he always stayed true to his character, almost to a fault, which is also part of my issues of this movie. But I really enjoyed following this character throughout the entire movie. When he met the genie, when he fell in love with Jasmine, and his entire story till the end, I really enjoyed the main character of Aladdin. I thought his story was great. And I also really loved Princess Jasmine in this movie. The actress Naomi Scott, who portrays her, does a fantastic job. I think she's probably the best performance in this movie, besides one other character. But I do think they gave her a lot to do. I know some differences between the animation. There's one song that she gets that I absolutely loved. And when she turned into Thanos, you know what? Kind of weird, but I loved it. And I think the thing that everybody was extremely worried about, and the people on the internet completely freaked out over almost as much as people freaked out over the Sonic thing, was Will Smith as the genie and the CGI and everything like that. And here's what I'll say about Will Smith. I think he is the best part of this movie. The charisma of Will Smith is, unprecedented. I know there's a few actors who has that type of charisma, but when you put Will Smith on screen, which I'm so glad he's back acting again, when you put him on screen, you just love him. There's no way not to love Will Smith, and him as a genie I thought really worked. I thought he was a fun character. My one issue with him was that opening scene, or not the opening scene, but his first scene in the movie as the genie was the CGI was not good. It's a scene that's in the trailers. It took me a while to really get into the character because I couldn't get over the fact that he's just Will Smith but blue and has a bigger body, and it looks kind of funky. But as soon as they get out of that cave and they're out in the real world, and the mixture of the blue and him being the actual human self, I thought it worked. But I think the initial reaction of seeing Will Smith as a genie is a little bit jarring. It takes a while to get used to him. And I think of all the characters, the story of Will Smith's genie is something that really stood out to me. And I do think at points, concerning the opening scene and the ending, I do think they kind of relied on people knowing the story of Aladdin, mainly because they kind of spoiled the movie at the very beginning. But that's fine. I already knew that plot point in the movie, so I wasn't too bummed out about seeing that opening scene. But I do think the story does come full circle in a very nice way, and I think his arc in the movie is probably my favorite. And I do think some stylistic choices that Guy Ritchie makes as the director of this movie is a little bit weird. There's some slow-mo in this movie, of course, because it's a Guy Ritchie movie. And there's one scene towards the beginning where it's actually fast-mo, and it feels like an old, 30s silent film of people moving really fast and slapstick comedy. It was very weird, very jarring. It's only one part of the movie that I can remember, but it was very strange. There's some stylistic choices about this movie that just, it baffles me. Now that I'm diving a little bit deeper into the issues of this movie, I loved the actor who played Aladdin. I thought he did a very good job, but I think how his character was written was a little bit off. Throughout the entire movie, he's always been a good person, and you can see that at the very beginning of the movie. He steals a necklace, he's a thief, but he sells it, gets some food, and he gives it to a homeless kid. And so you can tell that he has a good heart to him. But then once you go throughout the movie, he always has that good heart. You're always rooting for him. And there's a point in the movie where they try adding conflict to his character and try making him, a little bit more selfish. And I think it was so out of character. I think if they had more progression, because at the beginning of the movie, he's this generous, great guy that you want to root for. And by the end of the movie, he's a generous, great guy that you still want to root for. And they try to make him turn a little bit. And I think if they had that kind of selfishness a little bit more at the beginning of the movie and you saw his progression throughout, I thought that would have been a lot better. I'm not sure if it's the same way in the animation, but it feels like they tried to kind of shoehorn some conflict in there that just didn't work for me. And also the villain of the movie, JAFAR, I thought he was fine. I think he kind of, one thing that I don't understand about JAFAR is, who is he? Why is he in the palace, and what role does he play? Because he just kind of seemed like the creepy guy in the corner of the palace, always plotting. And why would you let him become close to the king and the princess? I just don't understand why he was there in the first place. And I do think the most important part of this movie is the connections between characters and their chemistry. So there are really three different ones that I would say is important to this movie. It's the Aladdin and Genie connection, is the Aladdin and Jasmine connection, and I think something that completely surprised me was Jasmine and her handmaiden, which I thought was actually surprisingly well done. It's really these four characters that I just enjoyed watching on screen. Every time Will Smith with was, trying to connect with the handmaiden, and Aladdin with Jasmine. I thought their chemistry for all four of them was great. The Aladdin and Genie, bond that they had, I was bought 100%. I bought it. And I think the Jasmine and Aladdin romance was really well done. So overall, I thought the 2019 Aladdin was very good. I don't think the trailers did this movie any justice at all. I was really entertained by this movie, which I think is the most important thing. So if you watch the trailers and you weren't sure about this movie, I think give it a shot. And if you haven't seen the original Aladdin, I think that's even more motivation to watch this one, because I do think some people may trash this movie because of their love of the original, but I do think it does a solid job at just being a purely fun, entertaining movie that really does feel like an animation come to life. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching this review. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see more content just like this one, reviews, commentary starting soon, a bunch of different stuff. I did a bunch of stuff for Game of Thrones a little earlier, a Brightburn review, a bunch of cool stuff on the channel, so make sure you guys subscribe and stay tuned, and I hope to see you all in my next review.